Nancy Hicks Marshall, it is such an exciting time to say a time in which I wish to say congratulations. You are a #1 best-selling author for your novel, A Dry Hate, Power versus the People.
Well, thank you. That's a very exciting surprise for me, but I hope a lot of people feel that it might be a good read, because I've already gotten some reviews from folks saying this was really good. So,
And you're saying, yes, I know.
well, you never can tell what other people are going to like, but I felt like in writing this that I had a number of worthwhile characters, and they weren't all like goody two shoes. Um, and I thought that made for a complex story with a variety of people who, many of whom had some kind of transition or change or maturing process in the course of the story. Things changed for them and they grew up. Whether they were 45 or 20, it didn't matter. They all matured somewhat. And I liked that about these folks.
In your novel. Well, I'm Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing House, and I've been the assisting publisher for Nancy Marshall, Hicks Marshall, who has Nugget Press, and she is the author of a number of books that have been, even one of hers, I think it was it A Rattler's Tale?
A Rattler's Tale. Just won first prize as at the National Federation of Press Women's at-large competition for children's fiction, best children's fiction for 2023. I don't know if it means at the totally national level, but at the state level, yes. So I'm excited.
That's awesome. So with this book, A Dry Hate, Power versus the People, this is actually the second edition of the book. It came out, I think you said 2017?
2012.
2012. It's been a lot of years. But the reason could you share with us the reason that you had decided to kind of bring this back and add some extra flavor to it as far as some of the happenings? What transpired that motivated you to do that?
A couple of things transpired. First of all, the theme in the original book was abuse of power by elected officials. And by abuse of power, I mean people who swore to uphold the Constitution and who also had specific obligations of office. For example, monthly reporting to the Board of Supervisors. Elected officials who simply did not do their job or violated constitutional rights. That's my idea of an abuse of power by an elected official.
Absolutely.
The problem I saw was that in the last 10 years, it's become kind of fashionable to abuse power. There are too many elected officials who I would say pander to the fears of people and get them comfortable with the idea that trashing the Constitution and trashing people's rights is somehow okay. I wanted to bring back the novel because it brings to life a number of people who are faced with the abuse of power, so that it's a very relevant story today. I wish it weren't so relevant, but it is. A second thing that I did, or that I found, was I had left out some people. I had known personally a number of Latinos and activists who got jailed and so forth. I didn't know that there were judges and county supervisors who were also harassed, indicted, and one was even jailed by the sheriff for questioning the sheriff's tactics. So in rewriting the novel, I wanted to include some characters who I hadn't been conscious of before. Also, as I reread it, the first time through was the haste and enthusiasm of a very present story.
Right.
And with 10 years of hindsight and insight, I took some of the fluff out of the story and tried to make it a cleaner read, so that what you're reading is really all of it's really relevant. Those are the two main things: the continuing abuse of power in real life and adding some characters who make this historical novel even more true to life than it had been before.
That's fascinating, and you know the interesting part is for most of us here in Arizona, at least we're familiar with the characters involved. You know, even the many of the people that endorsed you, I didn't know them personally, but I knew because they were in office. They were in office, and they endorsed you for this book. So that was fascinating to me that they were even willing to stand behind you on the publishing of this book, because they too experienced a lot of things firsthand.
Yes, I'm glad you noticed that. And some of them, they endorsed me in 2012 and they re-endorsed me again in 2023. So they said, you just go for it. This is almost like too true a story, very true to life. But yes.
Wow. Well, for readers, for those that are interested in picking up a copy, the name of the book is A Dry Hate: Power versus the People by Nancy Hicks Marshall. We'll have links in the video, underneath the video, and when we post it. But you know, pick up this copy. It's a very fascinating read, but at the same time, it also really addresses you know, some key issues about abuse of power. And Nancy, you've mentioned, I know in the media kit that we've been working on for you, you talk about the type of people that you believe would be interested in a book like this.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of people who are either moderate or liberal persuasion of any party would be interested in this, because sometimes, for example, I know people who didn't know, because he didn't want them to know, that our sheriff arrested people who were sitting quietly in their seats after clapping in a public meeting. Clapping for a speaker is totally within your constitutional rights. So there are a lot of people who didn't understand in detail what was going on. So I think a lot of moderate liberal folks like that. I also think it's a good summer read for people who are looking for a moving novel. I also believe that it would be a really good set to have in a high school or college classroom. I don't write steamy stuff. It's not what I want to have out there in the public. There are some beginning romances, but there is nothing that a high school or college teacher would say, oh, I don't want my kids to see this. But part of the book takes place at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at downtown ASU in Phoenix. I put this book in that setting for part of the story because the professor who's teaching a power and propaganda summer school course has a lot to do with journalism and freedom of the press, which is Cronkite's strong suit and great legacy to all of us. And I think the classroom scenes, plus the list of questions for discussion at the back, plus the list of propaganda techniques, would allow a teacher to have a very rich series of classroom discussions on several topics, including immigration, including freedom of assembly, including freedom of the press, the varieties of First Amendment issues. So I think it's both a fun read and a good academic resource.
That's excellent. And you know, it's really, and with today's youth, having those kind of conversations would be very healthy for them, because you know, our world is just quite different at this time, and the awareness. I have another author that is actually writing a book on conflict resolution for young people who want to get involved in politics, and he's just adamant that there has to be somebody stepping up to the plate and addressing these issues. You know, so I'm gonna be sending an email to him this afternoon and make sure that he picks up a copy of your book.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I wanted to say one thing. I have a really firm belief in education and in the right to read, and the opportunity of people to think, read, and discuss with each other. The classroom's a perfect place for a reasonably good teacher to hold, I wouldn't say a free-for-all, but a healthy discussion where people are free to disagree or raise their point And then he or she can send them out to do some homework. What did you find in the newspaper? What did you learn from your friends? What did you do reading books about this subject? Did you go to a demonstration, see how it really operated? For example, I went to one of the demonstrations here in Phoenix. I wasn't keen on being on the front lines, but what I wanted to see was how it was. Well, there were about 30,000 people there. Many of them appeared to me to be of Hispanic heritage, because part of the issue is immigrants' rights, mainly Latinos in our part of the world. And what I saw was 29,950 or 990 peaceful people, a bunch of peaceful police, some of whom were equine police, and then like 5 black suited anarchists who were throwing bottles at the horses and had them crash at the horses' feet. And I thought, you rotten people, you have just terrified an animal and spoiled what was otherwise an enormously peaceful demonstration. So I can see where it can go bad from any number of
Very quickly.
Yes, very quickly.
Well, I still, I maybe a little bit Pollyanna, but I think the majority of mankind is good. And it takes those few that can ruin a whole bunch of things for a lot of people.
Yeah. But I did want to reiterate, because I think I got off track, how important education is. I mean, you have to believe that, and I do, I believe that if people have the right to read books and talk in a classroom about a subject, they'll come away better informed and more willing to think about things in the future. They won't shut themselves off, or they won't inappropriately conclude prematurely that they know it all. So this book is a piece of what I would say is the effort to help people educate themselves and enter into dialogue and discussion with each other. And I love that your other author is working on conflict resolution for young people, because I have a strong belief that that's a good thing and that it can be done. I'm hoping you'll get the two of us together so we can have
make an
a private conversation.
I will make an introduction. Well, I wanted to say congratulations, because you've become #1 bestseller in a number of categories and hot new release. And there are in topics like women writers leadership, which you're #4 right now in leadership. I think yesterday you were #2. Constitution. So, in women writers, but it diversifies also, because the print book has also had a vast array of interesting categories that will spread the reach for this book, but it will also open the door for really good conversations and being found. And I would love to see this book get into the high schools and colleges. It would be pretty amazing. So thank you and congratulations. It's been fun working through this process, and we still have a few things that we need to finish up on, but as you're doing all the right things. You're really sharing a lot of your wisdom with the world, and that's beautiful. But you also have some book signing events and different things that you'll be doing, and you've got awards for other books. I think this is award worthy as well.
Thank you, Becky. I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an award.
Yes, very good. Well, I look forward to continuing to work with you, and congratulations on this amazing book.
Thank you, and thanks for all your help.
You're so welcome. Thank you.